There are so many angles to look at reality, at our world. And there is one angle, a new one, that is being revealed in these times. A strong, powerful way to look at our reality, the reality of the whole world. When a person comes into this world as a baby, what is that the parents want most for the child? To raise him, to protect him, to stabilize him, to strengthen him. In other words, to give him a shelter space. What is a shelter? It's certainty. To give him certainty that he will have food, certainty that he will have a home, certainty that he will go to school, to college, everything he needs in order to go well and to build up the certainty of his own life. So really, from this point of view, we understand that every person who comes into the world without even realizing it does a whole lot of things, just like everyone else. But deep down, all these things have one goal: to draw lines, to build something solid, to make things feel steady and safe, to be a stronger certainty in the middle of all the uncertainty of life. That is to say, mainly money. A person who has a salary knows that money is coming in, it gives him stability, it gives him security, it gives him certainty, and it allows him to live. And not just money. For example, where will he live? What will happen? What about the kids? There are endless examples. I don't want to go on about it. It turns out that as a person goes through life, studying, working, and so on, what he is really trying to do is to build up little by little more and more areas of certainty for himself. Because there is nothing that shakes, terrified, or scares the human mind more than uncertainty, the feeling of not knowing what will happen tomorrow, what we will eat tomorrow, where we will live tomorrow, what will be tomorrow. Even when everything is okay for a person, he starts to worry about his kids, about his grandkids, and the worry never really ends. So, as human beings, we keep trying to make as much of our lives as possible feel stable. And what is stability? It's certainty for our children and for ourselves. So if going to college or learning a profession or doing anything else can help with that, then you go study. Why? So you can earn more and have more certainty in your life. Basically, every action we take is to build something solid, like building an island you can stand on in the middle of the water. In the beginning of the book of Genesis it says, "And the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters." We see that at first everything was water. What is water? For a person, water means uncertainty, because when someone steps on water, they sink. But when someone steps on land, it's like certainty. He walks on solid ground. He feels safe. So we see that in the beginning, everything was uncertainty. But the uncertainty at the beginning, the uncertainty by itself, with no one that looking at it, that is the absolute certainty. He knows what will be until the very end, and he can also change it. If a person knows and understands this story, he can change the certainty in every person's life. Meaning, in the human race, the deepest and the strongest fear, that one that doesn't let us sleep at night, so to speak, but it's true, is the fear. What will happen tomorrow? Really, what will happen? Suddenly a war, suddenly markets crash, suddenly this, suddenly that. And the person calls his life certainty. But really, you don't even notice that the certainty he talks about is actually the biggest uncertainty there is. But because the human brain cannot understand it, it holds on the side of certainty, But inside that certainty and inside his life, going to work every morning or to school, we don't notice that suddenly, God forbid, a friend or family member of someone else is killed in a car accident. Suddenly someone said something to him, or that's the day he found out he has some illness. Unexpected things that happen all the time. Where? Inside our certainty. The brain just cannot take it, so it keeps going with the certainty it built in its life, goes to work and all that, and doesn't notice that suddenly something happens to him, to his friends, suddenly the unexpected comes. So what we call certainty is really full of holes, of not knowing, of uncertainty. And in the end we will see that what we call uncertainty, that is the real absolute certainty. There is nothing else besides it. It's a certainty that nothing in the world can shake. So this is what we need now. At first, a person tries to make land out of the water, from the uncertainty he was born into. He tries to make it more solid, so he can put some sand there to step on. In the end, the thing will really be like this. The sand we build, the certainty we build, we will need to give it back to the water, to really trust the uncertainty and not drive the certainty. Because we see it simply, when a person trusts in certainty, like he puts money into something, suddenly the investment is gone, suddenly something happens, suddenly, God forbid, he has a heart attack, I don't know. There are other things we have to control over. But the person doesn't want to see that because he wants to get more and more control, so he can rule over chance, over uncertainty, over what's unexpected, over what he doesn't know. But it never works, because uncertainty, randomness, always comes suddenly. A person drives on the road and suddenly someone hits him from behind. Not his fault, nothing. He can die, get hurt, go to hospital, suddenly no job, suddenly something happens, suddenly disability. His whole life changes. From what? From the randomness, the uncertainty that's always there. Where does it happen? Inside what we call certainty. We need to make order in this. When a person really starts little by little to understand the secret of absolute certainty, because what we call certainty today is a broken stick, a broken support. It's not real certainty. In the end, a person sees he has no control over his life. I know many people, for example, who are afraid of flying. Why are they afraid of flying? The numbers show that flying is much safer than cars. So why? Because on a plane, even the subconscious knows he is not in control. The wheel is not in his hands. He has no control over the situation, and that makes him feel panic inside. He cannot handle being on a plane. Why? Because it's a time when he is not in control. That means he doesn't have certainty in that moment. So he's afraid of flying. It's just a small example, yes? So really, now the world is going toward a new world, and we will see it little by little, that everything we believe was certainty will slowly fall apart more and more, because we will start to put our hope and our trust in the uncertainty, and we will see that the thing that is the opposite of the person, you would trust it more than anything. And why all this? Because the root of a person's life is fear. Fear of randomness, of not knowing, of the unexpected. Why? Because the human understanding is built to look for certainty. And what we call uncertainty, it's not really uncertainty. It feels like chaos, but it's not chaos. We need to understand this well. It is really not chaos. There is a pattern there, and there is a higher understanding. very, very, very high that the human mind cannot reach or understand. It cannot grasp the higher order that rules the uncertainty. So the mind tells us, stay away from that place. That's the uncertainty. But the truth is, there is wisdom there, deep and wonderful and amazing with no end. So when we start to know the wisdom of the uncertainty, then a person can really live forever because of certainty. Certainty in what? That he trusts the uncertainty more than he trusts the certainty. And really we see that the so-called uncertainty, which is actually a very high and wonderful wisdom, is the one that rules our life. And the person can never lose over the uncertainty. Like we see clearly, all the uncertainty comes in something unexpected. Even governments and very high organizations cannot rule over it. But it's like the end of every person. In the end, after everything, after all he did and worked and tried, whoever he is, from any religion, any gender, rich or poor, we see that in the end, everyone returns to the ground. That is the absolute certainty. No one in the world can now doubt what I'm saying or say I'm wrong, that their end won't also be in the ground. There is no other way out of this world. So what do we see from this in a simple way without going deep? That what looks to us like the root of uncertainty, which is death, right? We don't know what will happen after death. We don't know. That's the root of the not knowing, and it's the only one, the one and only thing that is really certain. No one argues about it. Everything else people argue about. But the fact that it will go back to the ground, those who believe there is something after death, and those who don't, it doesn't matter. This is the one certain thing that exists in the whole world, without any arguments. We see that the not knowing, which is like death after 120 years, can actually be used even in this world if we understand how to really buy, in quotes, to buy some space, so to speak, in the area of uncertainty. And every bit a person buys, in quotes, in the space of uncertainty, gives him certainty forever and ever. A kind of certainty that comes from all directions that the human mind can never expect or see it coming when it comes to this thing. So right now, the purpose that's being revealed, the new purpose of the world, is to turn the uncertainty, which is like an ocean, like a sea, where we have no way to see the future, what is hiding inside, for each person and for all of humanity. We need to turn the ocean into island. The safer a person feels walking on the water, then naturally there won't be any fear in the world, no worries, and he will be able to use the uncertainty, which is really endless. He will be able to use this endless thing inside our life, which is full of limits, full of narrowness, full of what we call certainty. We will say this rule again. What is uncertainty? What is, so to speak, coincidence, randomness? It's something that's beyond the limit. Why? Because it's something you cannot know before. It's not expected. That means in that place, all the endless combinations in the world can happen. Because if we don't know, then anything can happen. Good, bad, this mix, that mix, trillions and trillions of combinations comes from the future, which is the next minute, which is the uncertainty, which is randomness. And that's what the mind calls uncertainty. Why? Because the mind, which is stuck inside a limit, cannot hold information or behavior that's above the limit. So the mind blocks it, locks the whole thing, and goes back where it belongs, a place of certainty. Yes, but if we start to understand how to go into, in quotes, the markets of uncertainty and get a hold there, we will see that uncertainty is really a way to create huge power of growth. It's something above limits, above time, and we can bring it into a person's life of each and every person. So it's not just that he will be able to take it more and more uncertainty in his mind and turn it into certainty, but even more, it will give him more confidence, less fear, less worry, and then he will be able to rule over life.
Your will and the opposite of your will together at the same time, this is God.